Excellent.
Got it.
All set. I am Elaine Gardner, the host of the Bridge to Infinity podcast. I'm so happy to have my special guests with me today. I mean, all my guests are wonderful, each in their own way, and I'm so pleased to have Kristen here with me today. So thank you so much for joining me. In a minute, I'm going to have you introduce yourself and to pronounce your last name because I don't know that I can do it justice, but I wanted to share a little bit about how we met. We have a mutual friend and we met at a local expo that we were both attending. And I just want to share with you that you have such a beautiful, safe energy around you. We had never met before that day. We all went out for lunch together. We had a really powerful conversation. Shared some really personal things, and it's not your typical meeting with somebody that you can just share such personal things with so immediately. So I'm so grateful for that, the safety that you provide and your willingness to be so open where I could be really vulnerable and feel very safe sharing. And I did a lovely session with you last year with some energy work. And I also wanted to point out to you that there was something that you had said to me within that session that really resonated with me, that actually helped me tremendously in my, in all of the stuff that I had to deal with last year with 2020. I mean, we all had stuff to deal with, but you had that really stood out to me. Like before we were doing, as we were going into the session, and I don't remember if it was the part where we were pulling cards or what we were doing, you said, well, last night before our session, as I was checking in with your energy, and that like stayed in my brain, like, oh, I never considered that you could actually like get connected with somebody before a session and start to get a feel for things. And that, like I said, I mean, I can quote that. It's been over a year, and that made a really tremendous impact on me and has played a huge role in how things have unfolded for me over the last year. And we can get more into that as we go. So I would like to have you take the stage now and just introduce yourself. And again, say your full name, because I don't know if I can pronounce your last name properly and I don't want to butcher it. And tell me about what you do, because then we're going to start like picking apart the pieces and getting depth of how you got to that place, as well as deeper into the things that you offer and why it's so powerful and helpful, particularly where we are, like on the calendar in time and space, and where we've been shifting to energetically.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, Elaine, thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. Namaste, my friend. That was so kind. Lovely words. So thank you for that. So my name is Kristen Stefiuk. I am a Reiki master, a psychic medium, and I offer a class called Crystal Kids and Energy Teens, which I'm super passionate about. So we will dip into that. So I've been practicing for about 2 years now. I would say my spiritual awakening journey started about 5 years ago at rock bottom, which I think is usually the best place to start. The ground is very fertile. The only place to go is up. So I started my journey there, and it's been evolving ever since. And I'm still a work in progress, as all of us are. And starting your own business is challenging, especially with a pandemic. So I've certainly been slow and steady, and looking forward to hopefully launching this summer and really getting places with my business and helping others, which is what I'm really passionate about.
So since you mentioned the crystals with the kids, why don't there, and let's tell me more about that.
So I'm so excited. So I went to Plymouth State College. I graduated with a bachelor's degree in childhood development, and I should have become a teacher. That would be the next path, but I decided to become a professional nanny. I moved to Boston, and I was a professional nanny for approximately 20 years, and I loved it. It was the best career I could have chosen. I was still teaching in my eyes, just on a much smaller level. I had 2 young girls. They were about 15 months and 3 when they started, or when I started with them. They are now turning 22 and 19. So through that journey, I found my passion for education and teaching. I found my passion for working with children. And now I have this newfound passion for energy work, and sort of a trifecta, bringing those 3 pieces together and teaching kids these days to try to manage their own energy. Exactly what you spoke about in the beginning, Elaine, resonates with all of us, right? We all have an energetic system that we have the ability to tap into, but oftentimes we're just looking outside of ourselves for all of the answers and guidance. And these days, with the pandemic and sort of a low vibrational collective frequency, I would call it at times. I think for children, it's certainly a tough time to navigate, as it is for the rest of us. But I want to teach them to not be afraid and to still be able to step into the love and the light and the positivity. And we don't have to always stay in this fear, despair that I feel like a lot of us have been carrying with us for over the past year. So through the Crystal Kids session, it's about 45 minutes long, give or take. And as you spoke about, I tap into each child's specific energy system before we meet. I have the kids come into my office. We have hundreds of crystals set up all over the room. We have a check-in and we talk about what they're going through, just a brief overview of things that they're dealing with, so I know some places to focus on. And then we sit down and we sort of dive into the chakra system from a kid's perspective. I have kid-friendly worksheets that I use, and we talk about what is a chakra, what is energy, what is it to be an empath, which is an also simple word I wish I had known a bit sooner in life, which an empath is really just an energetic sponge, someone that really takes on the feelings of others and harnesses them as our own. And oftentimes that can cause anxiety, which I was riddled with growing up. Turns out I was just really intuitive and empathetic. So we do that. We work with crystals. We talk about meditation. We talk about gratitude journaling, affirmations, using an I am affirmation every day, working with colors. If you feel ungrounded and unsettled and you're going through some things in your life, maybe just pull in some more red, wear the color red, eat red fruits and vegetables. There's ways to simply work on balancing these energy centers that are friendly to kids understanding. So I'm looking forward to that. I've only had my first session just last week and it was incredible. And I do have to say, it's a little girl. She's 9 years old. She's a sibling of one of my son's friends. And we met 2 years ago. I have not seen her since the pandemic. Elaine, as you know, life, and the boys are on the same baseball team this season. And when she saw me, she came running over to me. Miss Kristen, I still sleep with my rose quartz you gave me every single night. This is 2 years later. And she's just someone that resonates with energy and all of it that it has to offer. So we did a beautiful session. And the next day at baseball, she came over to me and said, Kristen, I'm feeling a little bit all over the place. I'm just going to go ground myself over there. So she went over, she took her shoes off, she connected with the earth, she dropped into her heart space, she took some deep breaths, she closed her eyes, she came back over to me, she said, "Oh, I feel so much better." And I said, what a simple activity that we can teach children, right? When they're in their head and they're getting a little bit anxious and moving too fast and the monkey mind is going, go step outside, take your shoes off, connect with Mother Earth. Look up at the clouds, take some deep breaths. These are easy tools that we can be teaching kids to navigate their energy at this hectic time.
I love that story, particularly about her response, because I was going to ask you about that, about so many things that I want to go into detail with the story. Like, as I've been doing, well, I should probably share a little bit about my story.
Please do.
Yeah, thank you. I have been doing clinical nutrition work for 16 years. And then, as we know, everything changed in 2020, including the way that my clients were responding to my supplementation protocols. That was really frustrating for me because, of course, my intention is to get them the best results possible. So within that, I kept asking, is there something I can tweak? Is there something I need to add? Is there something I need to take away? Is there something I need to do different? Like, please give me guidance of how to get them back to those fantastic results that we had been experiencing for over a decade. And within that came significantly enhanced intuition, which was a huge surprise to me, especially as I did the transition to virtual, which initially I thought was just going to be temporary because of potential business closures. But the intuition going through the roof was so fascinating. And then downloads started coming in. I got a download about concentric circles around the human body. And it literally like a personal solar system of energetic connections. So not just, because we are physical beings, we tend to think only of ourselves as physical beings in the physical body, but we have all of this energy available that is literally encoded with all kinds of information that extends out from our body. And I know
Mhm.
there's been science that shows this, and different people refer to it in different ways. But it's not a static thing as well, so it can change. So this
Mhm.
was like the new way energy is showing up, and I'm going to get some more. I'm going to ask for some more details about energy for clarification on that. And I just want to stop and for a second and say we're also live on Clubhouse. We have 2 guests in our audience. I'm so happy to have you here. If you'd like to join the conversation, please just raise your hand. That icon's at the bottom of the screen, and I can invite you on stage and you can participate in the conversation or ask questions. We'd love to have you share. So as soon as I got the download about the concentric energy circles, then it naturally started coming up in conversations with clients, which just completely took me by surprise, and then also didn't at the same time. Of course, it's happening for a reason. And then I quickly was able to realize that I could actually see these things, not with my visual eye, my sensory perception of my eyes, but in my mind's eye. So if I have an energetic connection, I have somebody's permission, I can close my eyes and their body immediately shows me what's going on in their energy spheres. And then I can walk them through, like, this is where you're at. This is what's holding you back from being able to take full advantage. And it's a step-by-step process. These are the initial things that your body is saying we can clear to give you greater access to all this energy that is embedded and encoded around you. It's been really fascinating in that way. And a lot of people's bodies has been asking for grounding. And so after the download came in, I started doing a tremendous amount of reading and research and watching documentaries. And one of the fascinating things that I uncovered within that is that I'm just wondering if we should talk a little bit about energy first, but I'll finish that statement and then we can talk a little bit about energy. The Earth's core has the harmonic frequency that matches the human body. So in other words, our body is meant to vibrate at the same frequency as the core of the Earth. And so in many things that come in and disrupt our energetic patterns. So when we do that simple exercise of putting some type of bare skin to a natural substance, the earth, the ground, the sand, the water, we naturally start to harmonize and come into balance with that. So it is simple and really, really profound and super healing, particularly when there's so much chaos like what's been going on. And we live in homes and we don't get outside. Like this would have naturally happened years and years ago where people were living outside more. So it is a really simple and very profound tool, and people's bodies have been asking for it.
And the best part, Elaine, it's free.
Yes. Yeah. And simple. And so research, it shows that like 20 minutes is ideal to come into balance because it takes like the negative ions, the negative charges out of your body and then brings in those harmonizing frequencies. But sometimes, even 5 minutes, like even just before we started today, I got this sense in my body, like, what do I need to do to prepare? And just go outside and walk around the front yard. So not even 5 minutes, and then take a couple deep breaths and put your arms up and get your face in the sun, so even just 5 minutes made a profound difference for preparation.
Exactly right. And as you spoke about, I feel like oftentimes a lot of us are pigpen, where we're, from Charlie Brown, he has all of that stuff around him, right? That's his energy, right? We all have that energy field, and it gets staticky and it gets crowded. And so I like to use that image because I think it's a really powerful image. If you can picture Pigpen in your mind, he hasn't balanced his chakras or cleared his energy today. He's just a swirling storm of stuff, I
love that visual image. That's perfect. Yeah. I don't, maybe, some younger generations may not know who Pigpen is because Peanuts was, a generational thing, but I love that visual. Thank you.
Exactly. Well, for example, I brought it up to my little 9-year-old client last week, and she said, I think I know who it is. So I just pulled up an image on my phone, and then she said, oh yes, now I know who it is. But
yes, and seeing his dust clouds around.
And his dust clouds.
And
it's the same thing when you walk into a room. Sometimes you can walk into a room full of people and you can be grounded, Elaine, but then all of a sudden that energy of the room, those vibrations of other people's frequencies that are shifting, and those people that you're not really wanting to jive towards because they're a pig pen, it's all around them. And then there's the people that have that beautiful light aura around them, and you think, oh, I want to go over there, you know? So I think that's a good concept of energy too, is just all of us can remember at one point in time walking into a room and just getting that feeling.
Or
There's no other
heavy, like something just went down here. Yeah.
Exactly. You can feel that in the air, you know, or if you go into a home that's very loving, you know, on the other side, and you can just feel that in a home, you can feel that vibe, you know?
Yeah,
So it
absolutely. Yeah, I use references like that too when explaining to people about energy, because it can seem like a foreign out there concept, but everybody has had that experience for sure. I think that's a good place to pause for just 1 second. Preeti,
absolutely.
so I'm going to invite her up to speak. So just bear with me 1 second.
Sure. I'm going to grab a drink of water.
There she is. Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
This is Preeti from India, and I have a small question regarding people's frequency, which you were talking about earlier. So often, because I had a little bit of rough childhood in the past, so people's energy really get me, and it often pushes me away from people. Like, I really get scared because I can feel their energy sometimes, and my intuitions on about them and the purpose why they're trying to interact with me really gets me, and it really scares me, and I tend to be alone most of the times. So how do I channelize my energy and get back my reduce the anxiety and fear in me, like, to interact with people?
That's an excellent question. I think there are so many possibilities, and your energy will shift over time and in different situations. So I can tap into that a little bit and give you something specific. And I wanted to know, like, Kristen, do you have something specific? Are you getting something?
So why don't I let you lead and let me listen, and then I'll add to it afterwards.
So I'm feeling that even carrying some protective crystals that you would cleanse regularly could be very supportive initially. A very simple introduction as you explore the process of balancing your energy and knowing how to have boundaries and protect yourself, because that's something that you don't actually have to physically practice. So you don't have to be consciously aware that something's going on. You can just have that energy like in your pocket or around your wrist, or you know, a necklace or something like that, whatever speaks to you. I have crystals on my desk at work. I have them in my handbag, tucked into my handbag. When I leave the house, I'm usually wearing some type of a crystal bracelet that has been customized, made for me, and I choose different ones based on how I'm feeling. Never get on a plane without my crystal bracelets, you know, and so they're beautiful and they have incredible energy. I'm just checking in. I'm getting something about like a quartz, but a clear quartz type of thing. Let's just check with your body. Would it be best to have something in your pocket? No, I get the bracelets. Actually, Preeti, if you are familiar with Clubhouse at all and the functions there, if you click on my picture and scroll down in my profile, there'll be a link to my Instagram profile. And if you send me a message there, I can actually send you a link to the person who makes my bracelets for me. And she infuses them with Reiki, and they're, again, very customized, so very intentional pieces. Yeah, so if that appeals to you, I'd be happy to send that to you. So just send me a message on Instagram and I'll share that link with you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
One more question.
Yes.
Regarding the crystals, it's really new to me, but then I'm curious to know about it. So is it something like a placebo effect, which makes you balance your chakras, or is it something done out of belief, or is it something really happening in the crystals that they can control your?
Yeah, it's a physical thing. Yeah. So Kristen and I are going to jump to energy a little bit more in depth, but the crystals actually hold energy. Yeah, Kristen has something she wants to add to that, but it is a very physical thing. So with crystals, when you start playing with them, you want to cleanse them when they come in, which means sometimes with running water. I often cleanse my crystals in the sun. I just put them out for a little bit. And then if I've been around something that's really negative or draining, then I will cleanse them again. So yeah, I just saw Kristen just pulled out this beautiful selenite wand. I have one of those too, which I love. So yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. So Kristen, please what you want to.
So thank you so much for joining us today. So I wanted to bring two specific crystals to your attention. So you're going to want grounding and protection crystals, as Elaine mentioned. So some really great options for that, if you want to write these down, is to get some black tourmaline. That is my go-to as far as deflecting the negative vibes. I like to think of black tourmaline as a boomerang. So when people are sending that energy towards you, that black tourmaline is going to bounce it right back. You're like this, it's going to deflect it right off of you. So as Elaine mentioned, it's all about trying different ways. Try the pockets crystals, try bracelets, try a necklace. They fit great in your bra sometimes. You know, find what works for you. And I would really recommend starting to work with these, because again, crystals were new to me about 5 years ago. And I was someone that had all of these same types of things. I had a hard time being in crowds. Certain people I just couldn't handle being around, but it's just about learning to protect yourself, which we all have the ability to do. So as she mentioned crystals, another thing I wanted to talk about was selenite. This is another great crystal. This is a wand, and it sounds, again, silly, placebo effect, what you may want to call it. It works. And I just use this to go around my own energy field, my own aura, because remember, we can only control ourselves, right? And the way that we react to the situation. So there will always be people our whole lives that make us feel that way. We have the power to control how we react. We cannot control how they behave. So using some selenite, which also is great for charging the crystals. So let's say you went ahead and grabbed a couple of pocket ones. Another method Elaine mentioned, which was great, the sunshine, the moon, putting it on some selenite. And then another thing is, have you ever worked with sage? Sages can be another great tool, just again, for clearing your own energy field and protecting yourself before you go out. Oftentimes, if I know I'm going out into a crowd, I will take a shower, and I call it a meditation shower, where I just pretend the water is pure white light. I start at the top of my head at my crown chakra, and I just let it wash all the way through like a waterfall. So it goes straight through down the drain, so that again, I'm balanced, I'm protected. So whatever they're sending your way with that stuff, it's going to deflect right off of you like a boomerang. So those were just some other suggestions I thought of trying. And also even a simple I am mantra, repeating every day, mix it up. I am brave. I am strong. I am confident. And when you get in those situations and you feel a little bit heavy, repeat that to yourself over and over in your mind, because you are brave and you are strong and you are confident. So I really believe that you can shift your energy and get it where it needs to be.
Awesome. Are those things helpful?
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
And
Yeah,
also,
Bill-
I'm on Instagram too, Elaine, if you want to tell her.
If she hits your picture, if Kristen's picture, you can find the same. And again, these are just suggestions for the beginning of the journey. There's so much more that you can do progressively as you go, and either or both of us would be happy to guide you in that process. So feel free to reach out to us. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for joining.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Great question. Great question.
Great. So let's go into a little bit more of energy. So as we were talking about before, that word keeps coming up. It can seem, even though you gave some really great examples about what people can feel, you know, everyone has experienced that when you walk into a room. It still tends to be like this vague concept. And up until a couple months ago, or like the last year, I don't know that I could have explained it very well either. So that has been one of the things that I've been really, really trying to understand, and taking in other people's information, and then also trying to develop the language to be able to explain it. So some of the, and I would love to share that with you, and then
please do
give me feedback on that and tweak it and tell me what your own interpretation is. So as sensory beings, we take energetic information that is coming in around us all the time. And so particular waves or frequencies that come in, the body can interpret through the ears. The ear sends a message, then the conscious brain interprets it, and then we hear a sound. And then there's other wavelengths or frequencies or vibrations. They're all kind of interchangeable that we're surrounded by, that the eyes pick up, and then that information goes into the brain. The brain understands what it is, and then we can see, and so on. But we, as five sensory beings, we have a limitation by those five senses. And there's a lot more energetic information or wavelengths or frequencies that we're surrounded by all the time, that cannot be taken in by the body in a way that becomes consciousness to us. And everybody is aware of this on some level, because we know that animals can hear different sounds that humans can't hear. So this is all about, they have a capability of picking up this wavelength or frequency information in a different way than we can. So because there's way more available than our bodies can bring to our consciousness, we are still being affected by all of that other information. And one of my hypotheses at this point is that the nervous system is interpreting or picking up that information and responding to it, but not in a way that becomes conscious, so we're not aware of it. And so, and the other thing that I've been sharing with people to help them understand that this isn't some woo out there concept, this is science, and we are actually utilizing this on a day-to-day basis, where things like, maybe the oldest example is radio. So radio, it's not like there is a radio tower sending information and we have a direct wired connection into our homes or our cars to pick up that information. The radio station is broadcasting, information is moving through the airways, and then we have a receiver in a car or a home that's picking up the music, the top voices. And the same is true with TV. The TVs aren't hardwired to the station that's in that broadcast. It's moving through the airways. It's getting sent out from the station. The TV is picking it up. And we use this with Wi-Fi. We're using this technology now with our phones and our laptops. So we're always, this is very scientific. This is very real. It's very concrete. And we're utilizing it all the time. And our bodies are also receivers, like the TV station, and broadcasters. So there's a lot more going on in the nervous system and the transmission. And this is just nature, that all of this information is moving around us. So I would love to get your input on that and some like nuances or tweaks or things that help clarify.
Truly, I don't think I could say it any better than you just did, Elaine. That was amazing. Yeah, no, honestly, it's definitely still something that I do struggle to put into words sometimes, the proper way to understand energy, which is why for me, picturing it as those visuals that we talked about, for me, helped to make the most sense of it. And again, just when I was growing up, I was someone that, again, I was an empath. It's a very simple word. And if you ever think you're someone that is very affected by energy, Google what an empath is and look that up. I wish someone had said to me when I was little, Kristen, I think you're an empath, which just means strong feelings, feeling for others. And we all have empathy to some degree, but there are others of us that just take that on like a wet blanket and we carry it around, and we become, with that energy, anxious beings, maybe depressed beings, all these labels, and we get insomnia. It all affects our entire system. Like you said, our nervous system, our energetic system, our physical system. If we're not speaking our truth and we're constantly filtering our words, we may even develop like a thyroid type of thing going on. If we're not confident in who we are, in our solar plexus and our sacral down in our abdomen, we can develop reproductive issues, anxiety, things like that, things that they manifest themselves in physical ways. So as you said, it is very scientific, yet it's also simple in many ways too. But I think the way you said it was spot on.
It's also very personal. So one of the other things that I have come to believe here is that we all come into the world with these gifts of intuition and extrasensory perception. And I think it's extrasensory perception. It's going back to that explanation, like our nervous systems are still picking up that information outside of the sensory capabilities of our bodies. And everybody has unique capabilities to receive and interact and to work with that. And because by like 4 or 5 years old, we are starting to go to school, and for most people, and then we are instructed to sit still every day and use our brains to listen to the teacher, to pay attention, to absorb intellectual information. This becomes our dominant mode of operating. And just like, I just thought of this example, like if someone is born with a sensory deficit, like hard of hearing or no hearing or no sight, they often develop those other senses to kind of compensate so that they can still navigate the world very successfully with enhanced eyesight or whatever. And so when we are focused on our intellect, that can be to the detriment of our other senses, including this energetic information. But it doesn't necessarily change what you came into the world with. So you come in as an empath, but you're not taught how to use that. But that information is still bombarding your body 24/7, 365. And so you have no tools how to handle that. No one's told you about it. No one's taught you how to handle that. And
Exactly right.
a million other things, different people with their own uniqueness and their own combination of skills, like things are just coming at them all the time, and they've had no time to develop that so that they know what it is and learn how to work with it, as opposed to just being bombarded with it. So it can be very overwhelming. And that's a huge tragedy in many ways. And one of the things you actually pointed to this is that when all of this energy is swirling and our bodies get overwhelmed and we don't know how to use them, they can actually become embodied as physical disease type of process or illnesses, because we haven't learned how to work with them in a balanced, harmonious way, which would be the intention of how we came into the world, to learn how to work with them and use them for our own good and for the good of the world as well. I don't believe that there are any coincidence or mistakes. People are given the gifts that they were given with the intentions of working in a very sovereign but also collaborative space of sharing their gifts with the world. So this is one of the intentions about my having these conversations with people, is to get, for you to share your journey and how you came into this, so that people understand, like I kind of hate or hesitate to use the word normalize, but that people usually understand what that means. So I want to normalize these conversations so that people understand that they all have unique gifts. And even a year ago that I would be able to get these visions about what was going on with people's bodies, or I could see the energy and what it's holding around their body. It's not that I wouldn't have believed you, but of course I didn't have access to that. So I would have been like, I'm not really sure about that. But so for anyone with that hesitation, like, well, yeah, you guys can talk about that. You have those skills, but I don't have them. No, you have them too. And if you choose to, and you have the intention to discover them and learn how to work with them, that can absolutely happen, for sure. And it will, that's the way it's meant to be for you. Oh, so many words are swirling. My brain moves so much faster than my mouth can.
Story of my life. Mm-hmm.
When we discover and embrace our uniqueness, my whole body's kind of like tingling. It brings us into such alignment and harmony with our purpose in the world. Like, a lot of people are like, well, what's the purpose of life, or what's my purpose? And yeah, everybody has a purpose. And when you start exploring these concepts and understanding them, you get grounded, like, oh, that's what I'm supposed to do. I have this gift. This is the way that I'm meant to share that. And it becomes this beautiful, synergistic, I have this skill, I get to help people, that lights me up, I get to have a great life because it's so exciting. Like, there's just so much, it's that giving and receiving, and that we've been actually detached from that with the way that our systems are running. So that kind of feels like that completes that part of it. And so I wanted to ask you more about.
Really quickly, can I add one thing to that? Because you brought something up I wanted to talk about. So a couple of things. I think oftentimes we're so focused on our physical self, our emotional self, and we forget that we're spiritual beings. And we have this entire spiritual side, and we need the toolbox, as you said, to be able to navigate these things. But as you mentioned, I think a lot of times as children, there are certain kids, that maybe the ones that had an imaginary friend, things like that, oftentimes they're just starting to sense and see energy. And we teach them to sort of shut that down because it's weird or it's woo woo or don't do that or, things like that. Right. And we start to cloud this third eye, this beautiful intuition that we've all been given. And oftentimes it's just a matter of opening that back up and dusting it off and doing that through a lot of different things. Again, crystals, meditation, things like that. And just learning to trust ourselves, because again, we're always seeking oftentimes the answers outside of ourselves. But I think as kids, you'll know those certain kids that are super tapped into energy and to spirituality. And then oftentimes they get shut down almost, and the veil starts to get really thin because they're right there getting to the other side, but then they're pulled back. And then that's the way it is because they can't do that. And also when you said that you were getting, tingles, things like that, what you were saying at that moment was my download. When I get tingles or goosebumps, I call them angel bumps or truth bumps. And it just means when you get that feeling that what you just spoke was the truth. So you were sharing about just getting in this beautiful synchronicity with life. And, when you do all of these things. And for me, one of my other gifts, which we'll probably transition into, but it took me all of this time to be able to say that I am a medium. So that is a gift of mine that I have had and I have learned to work with. It's not a gift that I have that nobody else does. Again, we all do. It's just a matter of how, I call this our antenna. Do you want to put your antenna out like this, or would you rather have it in? And that's a personal decision. Some of us are happy with that, just kind of closed right here, but others of us, once we open that up, it opens up a whole nother realm of communication as well. So
I agree with that. And I'm actually thrilled that you said that. So let's talk a little bit about spirit. Like you mentioned spiritual. When I got the downloads with the 9 concentric circles of energy around the human body, the innermost circle, it was physical, and it still is physical. The next circle out is emotional. The next circle out is mental. The next circle out is ethereal. So it's in a word that I was really familiar with. And that means like just all that is. And the educational system teaches us like we're in this small solar system and it's just we're the only life form. This is the only planet that sustains life, and it's a very small picture of the cosmos. And I have, I don't necessarily understand the stars and the galaxies and the Milky Way, but it is much more expansive than we've been led to believe. And there is a lot of energetic information that is coming in from there. One of the authors that I've been reading actually refers to like the information that's coming in there as like the one or the truth vibration. And that in my mind may also be where we originally came from, like as a universe, as all that is, this vibrational quality, just creating everything. And we are part of that. We are part of the creation. So we are attuned to it and we have access to that. And again, that's going to be different for everybody. And we've gotten, I think, really confused. A lot of people, spirituality and religion can be synonymous to them. And it could be, but religion is also, and I always hesitate to talk about religion because it's one of those things like politics where people have these very ingrained ideas and they can be very defensive about them, or their bodies may not be open to receiving additional information. So, I'm no expert in religion. I can't say that religion is super healthy or that this one isn't. If it works for you, great. If there's fear involved in that or manipulation, or you don't like some of the traditions, then I encourage people just be like, is it really working for you then? Because that's all that matters in this time and space in your lifetime is, does this resonate with you? Is it working for you? Do you have a healthy body and emotional body and mental habits, and within all of the things that you choose to do, including the belief systems that you attune yourself with or connect yourself with. So for me, spirituality is not in a building, or not in following a set of rules, or not listening to somebody else necessarily teaching me things. I actually have a very unique cosmic connection where I have information that is constantly being fed to me. And it is absolutely a leap of faith. because where I've been given information about what that is and where it comes from, it's again different from somebody else's, so I can't like confirm it to know that it's true. And it's just like I'm always asking questions when I'm getting fed information so that it feels right to me. And as long as it's resonating with me, then that's good for me. It's a very expansive process. It's been changing and shifting, and so I'm good with that. And it's that spiritual or etheric connection is a very, very important part of our overall health and our guidance systems about how we can live our lives to the best of, again, our own happiness and our serving the world as well, having our place in the world. Do you want to add anything to that?
Well, I was just going to say, so for me, same thing. I like to refer to myself as a fruit salad. So when it comes to religion and things, I take things that I like from this one and maybe something I like from this one. I've just never subscribed to just one method of anything. I've always been a think out of the side of the box kind of person. So when it comes to that stuff, as you said, I think the most important thing is, does it make you happy? Does it bring you peace? Does it resonate with you? And all of that, and whatever that is, if that's, and it's been hard, I think, for me as far as the mediumship piece, because I do know that in some religions, it's not entirely accepted or believed in. But with that said, I also do have some friends that have utilized me that I would not have thought would utilize me due to their beliefs and faiths. And I've actually been able to help them tremendously. So that's why I just don't believe in there being one lane, stay in this lane. There's always a couple of other things to look at. There's no one size fits all model for anything in this world, is what I believe in. So.
Absolutely. So I just want to pause for a second and
Absolutely.
check the Clubhouse screen, and Danielle and Vicky are in the audience. I'm so happy to have you both here. Thank you for joining us today. If you have questions or anything you want to add to the conversation, you can raise your hand. I'd be happy to accept that and have you contribute or get your questions answered. And so going back to energy, and so we're talking about how each person has their own unique gifts they came into the world with. So I'd love to hear about the discovery process for you, how you discovered or got into this path of, in guiding yourself into the work that you now do and get to offer others.
Absolutely. So briefly, I just want to talk about in the mediumship world, we refer to the clairs. So there are clairaudience. That would be someone who almost hears energy and in spirit, that they're clairaudient. That's their gift, their skill. There's clairvoyance, which you've heard of, and that is generally someone that can see spirit. I am not clairaudient or clairvoyant. My clairs are clairsentient and claircognizant. So for me, clairsentient is just a sense of feeling. If I'm connecting, I may get a heavy chest. My head may hurt. I may be able to relate in that manner. As far as claircognizance, for me, I get quick bits of information, as you spoke of, downloads. That may be a bumblebee, Costa Rica, it could be certain things. And then I can bring that and say, what's with the cruise ships, and it will just be visuals for me that I see. And then I ask, and then we're able to validate and confirm through all of those hits of information for me. So my journey into mediumship really started about 5 years ago, I would say. 2016 summer, it was my daughter's 9th birthday on August 24th. And my cousin was unfortunately hit by a bus in a crosswalk in Providence, Rhode Island, and killed at the scene. She was 29 years old and had just had coffee with her mother and had gone to work. And the bus coming out of the terminal did not see her in the crosswalk. It was very traumatizing to get that call on my daughter's birthday and to think how precious life was. Here I was having a 9-year-old, beautiful, healthy daughter. And here was my aunt and uncle, struggling with the most unfathomable tragedy that, any parent can imagine. So that was pretty rough in and of itself. And then exactly 1 week after, I got a call from my grandfather in Maryland that he was really starting to take a turn, and that if I wanted to be able to have time with him, I should come down there. So I took a bus and a plane, and I got to Maryland, which is my happy place. I grew up there, vacationing there as a child. And about 24 hours after I arrived there, almost to the minute, my grandfather took his last breaths at home, comfortable in his bed. It was his time to transition. I was holding his hand. I did feel truly in that moment, my grandmother's energy come into the room, and off they went. It was a very simple transition for me. He was in the physical body, and then he wasn't. But it's not that he was gone. He didn't stop breathing. And then that was the end of my Grandpa Bob. He had transitioned on and entered the spirit world. Through that journey, just kind of suffering with loss. And through these next 6 months, I just had a lot of friends who were struggling with addiction and suicide, and just kind of felt like the Grim Reaper, truly, it's just like one thing after the other. And all this while, my husband, I'm very open about our lifestyle, so I hope this is okay, but my husband was struggling at the time with an opioid dependency to prescription pharmaceutical drugs. So it was a very rough time in my life dealing with all of this, and having him not necessarily be the most supportive husband as he generally had been prior. That brings us 6 months forward from September to March 2nd of 2017. And my cousin on the other side of the family was walking with her friend, and the two of them were hit by a car. My cousin survived. Her future sister-in-law did not. My cousin was, I believe, about 20, 21 at the time, and Michelle was 16. Michelle passed away. My cousin Liz survived. She was traumatically injured. Decapitated internally is what they refer to it as. So her head was on her body, but there was no neck inside. She was paralyzed from the neck down. Everything was broken on her. The woman was going very, very fast. And so Michelle passed at the scene. My cousin was life flighted. We did not know if she would survive. This was in Florida. So I needed to get down there for surgery. She was having surgery the next day. It was a neck fusion surgery. They've only done maybe a handful of times in the world. It's a surgery that generally you don't survive the injury. So there's really no need for surgery, but they thought she had a chance and that they could fuse her properly and maybe get her some movement back. So in turn, I went to go be with my family. And at this point in time, again, husband was not in a great space. So I went down to be with my cousin. I was actually the only one that got into the room with her after the 18-hour surgery. She got back into the ICU in the middle of the night. I was flying home the next morning, and they allowed me to go in with her. And I was able to get my hands on her body, barely, because everything was casted. And in that moment, I knew she was still in her body. I knew that there was still hope for her, and that if she could just fight one step at a time, she could do this journey. At this point, she still had no mobility. So after the surgery, they were hoping mobility, no mobility. Well, while I was in there, and again, they say it was from surgery, which I'm sure it was, but there were little tiny movements coming off of her. And in that moment, I have goosebumps talking about it. They're head to toe goosebumps for me, because in that moment, I just knew it wasn't the end for her. And I knew in that moment that Michelle had been with her every moment of this journey. Michelle was at the scene, flew in that ambulance or helicopter with her, kept her sturdy enough in that helicopter, was there with her during surgery, guiding that surgeon's hands. One movement, one wrong movement. And again, the head to toe, thank you, Michelle, for confirming. She's one of my spirit guides. So needless to say, my cousin is a warrior and has made a completely full recovery. She walks, she talks, she graduated college. She's incredible. She's a walking earth angel. So in this time, I flew home the next day to get back to my children, and my husband had left for a business trip before I had gotten home. And it just felt yucky. It's an energy, right? So I came back into my house after picking my kids up, and I just sort of felt done, to put it no other way. It was an energetic vibe. In that moment, I thought that was probably time to move forward for me. When my husband landed his plane out in Seattle, Washington, again, energy. I did not say anything. While he was on the plane, he could energetically feel this. And when he landed out there, he woke up and knew in that one moment he needed help. And that was on his own accord. It was his choice. And because he knew he had hurt me, and he was the best man. I've been with him for 23 years. He's incredible. But in this moment, being addicted to a heavy duty opioid that he was overprescribed made him someone else. So he flew home. He got treatment. We drove him to rehab on March 10th. He got sober exactly a week after the accident. And that was in 2017, and he's never looked back. He was in rehab for 30 days and he works the AA program every single day. He is so inspiring and helps so many men and women. He sponsors many people now, and he's just come so far. So when I say rock bottom, everybody, that's pretty rock bottom, right? I mean, I don't think you can get much further down into the bottom of the mud here. So from that point, I just realized actually, and so my husband came home from camp, as we like to refer to it as, but he came home from rehab and with all of these new tools in his toolbox, talking to me about chakras, talking to me about meditation, talking to me about things I didn't know about. I didn't know what a chakra was. I didn't know what, mindfulness was, all these little words that he started to teach me, all these tools that he learned in his recovery program. And so at that point in time, I also looked around at myself, and I had been labeled and diagnosed with anxiety, insomnia, PTSD, lots of labels. And I realized to myself that I was on 5 pharmaceutical medications. Did I really need to be on 5 pharmaceutical medications? I don't believe I did. So this transition woke me up to the ability we have to heal ourselves. Again, I think we're so often searching for that magic cure and that magic pill that will make everything better. And medicine is a wonderful tool in the toolbox when it's used properly. But I do believe in my husband's, situation, he was prescribed 180 OxyContin at a time for a minor shoulder injury. And this came from an industry that said it was non-addictive and it worked for any type of pain. Well, it turns out it was actually quite addictive, and we've lost hundreds of thousands of beautiful Americans to this disease. So I'm very passionate about also trying to help people that have struggled with addiction themselves or been touched by it in some way in their lives. We're a very open book. This is something we discuss with all of our friends, all of our family, our children. I don't believe it's something to be ashamed of or not talk about. I think we're just so put our mask on, for lack of a better term, when we go out into the world and we portray what we want to portray, but that's not being radically honest and authentic. And I think the way to be truly happy and at peace with yourself is to be radically honest, even when it's painful. So long story, sorry to make a long story, very long, but through that journey, I just decided to start healing myself. I slowly, with a doctor's assistance, was able to wean myself off of my pharmaceuticals over the course of a year. I started supplementing things like walking, meditation, eating healthy, eating clean, balancing my chakras, working with crystals, practicing Reiki, being attuned to Reiki 1, Reiki 2, Reiki 3, just working with energy, all these different things that were brand new to me. And guess what, everybody, they work. I am a perfect example of you can look at me 5 years ago, who I was to who I am now. And it has truly been an awakening and a journey. And we are our own best healers. That's the bottom line. The body has an innate ability to heal itself when given the time and the space. But these days, everything is fight or flight, fight or flight. That's our sympathetic nervous system. We're going. We need to tap into our parasympathetic. That's when we rest and digest. And our body has that chance to process those emotions, to work through that pain, rather than constantly pushing it down into San Andreas's fault, because we push it down, and then it comes out in a very unhealthy manner. As I'm sure many of us can relate to experiences in our life. So that is what led me on this journey, and to start working with my gifts. And truly, Michelle, who I wear a few angels here on my right arm, lovely angels that I connect with every day. And I had never met Michelle on this earth plane, but she came to me very quickly after her crossing and just started really tapping into my energy, and spirit really just started to guide me and push me. And as much as I wanted to sort of shut it down or, keep pushing it away, spirit doesn't stop, and they will continue to push you and push you. And again, I'm finally in a place. I just finished a wonderful 8-week mentorship program with the beautiful, incredible Lauren Rainbow, who's a wonderful, wonderful psychic medium here in the New England area. And it was through her that I could finally say I am a medium. And being a medium is, again, something, as we briefly touched upon the religious aspect, oftentimes people may look at you differently. People may talk about you. And for me as a human being to just sort of, this is who I am. And to be, again, that radically honest, authentic self, and to be okay with what others thought of me or directed towards me or spoke about me. To just accept that this is my gift. As you spoke about, we're all born with different things and skill sets. And I truly believe I'm here to help people and manage their energy, but it's also just to tap into their loved ones that are always around us as well. They're a whisper away, but do we want to listen? So.
Said a few things I want to draw attention with. I love that you talked about innate healing, because the body is whatever the body can create, the body can heal. And there are so many different pathways of doing that. And you do have to take responsibility. It is your body. You are the only one in control of it. And to, again, follow the pathway of resonance for you, because there are so many different options. And my experience has been not only in my own personal healing story, because I have one as well, but also in working with clients for years and years and years. It's not one thing. You know, we go, the typical pathway is you tell your symptoms, you get a diagnosis. This is what's going on. But as we've been discussing, there can be emotional components to that, energetic components to it. So we want to look at that as a whole, and it's often layers of things, and they can unpeel over years. And so you just keep paying attention to your body, keep listening to the body, keep following the resonance, the physical stuff, the energetic stuff, the Reiki, whatever it is that speaks to you. Keep putting the pieces together, keep putting one foot in front of the other. Everything comes together over time. And there are some fantastic facilitators. When I started my own healing process back in 2000, there was a lot less available from a holistic perspective. And it's been so incredible to watch, things explode where people understand and are open to things like Reiki and chakras and there's all kinds of holistic healing modalities, from body work to supplementations. And supplements has been one of my favorite tools. I've done a lot of work with whole food supplements, because they give the raw materials the body needs to start the repair process, and we don't get enough nutrients from our food. So these are essential components. So there's so many wonderful, wonderful things that you can do to take charge of your own health. Some people hesitate because we've also been caught in the path of, well, my insurance doesn't cover it. Well, if you really want to be healthy, you're going to have to step outside the box and do what it takes, and find that money no matter where you can. I mean, a lot of people spend money, and I don't mean to be judgmental, a lot of people spend money on things that don't support their health. So give up some of the habits, replace some of the things, and invest that money in positive things, like even just shifting from junk food to real food. That's a great example, a very concrete one that people can understand. So there's usually money that I've had over the years. People are like, well, I don't have the money for this. And then in the next breath, they'll tell me that they're reconstructing their kitchen. And I'll be like, okay, great. If you can do those things, great. But guess what? If your body's not healthy and you can't stay on this planet, you don't get to enjoy that beautiful.
So true.
So maybe think about that a little bit more, and it's a societal programming. Like, we need to put our bodies first. If we don't take care of our physical health, our mental, emotional health, we don't get to be here. We don't get to stay here. And then also we don't have the presence and the ability to enjoy our lives to the fullest. So for me, I mean, it's an easy thing for me because I spent 20 years of my life struggling with my health. So it's a no-brainer. Like, it's always going to be a priority. I learned that lesson.
Absolutely.
Other people don't have that as a priority because they haven't experienced that same hardship. But I would love it if society turned the tides and was like, health is always going to be a priority, because without it, nothing is the same.
It's so true.
So find the great facilitators, and again, don't listen to what Aunt Mary or Uncle Bob says, or your next door neighbor. Oh, you should do this because it worked for me. It drives me crazy. It's like, yeah, I love when people share that information, and you're a different person in a different situation. So keep looking for what resonates with you. Try it. If you don't like it or something feels off, next, move along, find something else. If you have the commitment and the intention to figure out your pathway, you will find the pathway as long as you stay on it.
One more random thought with that is just, so I like to think of it as like the crayon box. When you used to go to elementary school, get your new crayon box, right? And there's like the regular box of 24 crayons. And then there's that giant box of 128 crayons. You want to have the 128 box of crayons, all the tools, not the 24. There's times in life and we need all the tools. And again, like you said, it's finding what resonates with your own energetic system and your own self, because we're all different. We're all created differently. What works for one surely doesn't work for another. So trying things and just finding what works.
I love those visuals too. And going back, that I wanted to point out, you had said too about the San Andreas Fault, like stuffing things in your body. Eventually it becomes a volcano. That was a really awesome visual. So I feel like we are coming to a close and there's something coming in where, okay, so I'm getting a little bit of my guides sharing with me that they want us to do, I don't know quite the words. I get the feeling and I understand what we're being asked to do, but it's almost like we're being asked to do like an energetic connection right now, like so bringing our energy together a little bit and then letting it broadcast out.
Okay.
We've both been sharing our stories separately, and if we can bring them into connection a little bit, we don't need to do that from a language perspective, just from an energetic perspective. So are you feeling that?
Absolutely. And I would just like to, my favorite breath work, easy peasy one, is to smell the flowers when you're doing deep breaths. Like there's a dozen roses and you really want to smell them, because oftentimes people do this. It didn't work. Nope, nothing, because you really need that intention. So if we're doing this, I want whoever's on this joining in with us right now to really smell those flowers. And then as you exhale, like you're blowing out every single birthday candle on your cake, you really want to let that air out. And another little tip when you're doing deep breaths is to breathe in and hold that energy at the top, almost shrug your shoulders so it really gets in there, and then release it. And so I think, Elaine, a couple of those, and maybe even just placing our hands onto our heart space to sort of just drop in here and tap into that energetic space and give it some love for ourselves. And then, as you said, project that love out onto others as well.
Absolutely. I think that's absolute perfection. I'm getting very confirmation, like if we do the breathing practice together, it will bring our energies together, and then it can broadcast out. So for anyone that's listening, they can easily receive that if they choose to tap into that. So since you know a little bit of what to do with the breathing, I will ask you to lead that, please.
Absolutely. So at this point in time, why don't we just go ahead and place one hand or both hands, whatever feels organic and natural for you, right over your heart space, right in the center of your chest. This is our heart chakra. It's the middle of our chakra system. It's the gateway to the upper and the lower chakras. So it's really important that we check in here and give it some love and some energy. So let's go ahead and take 3 deep breaths. As I talked about, I'm not going to tell you to smell the flowers and blow out the candle. So on your own accord, go ahead and take 3 deep breaths, please. Hold that energy at the top. Don't be afraid to make noise as you exhale too. If something wants to come out, let it out. Let's breathe in again. Squeeze that energy at the top and exhale. Let's do one more right here. Hold at the top and let it out. Now, Elaine, why don't we go ahead and just bring our hands into prayer pose in the center. Continue to keep our eyes closed. Let's take a deep breath in, bring our hands up over our head. Turn our hands outward and let's just exhale that energy around our body. Let's go ahead and do that one more time. That felt nice. Prayer hands at heart center. Eyes still closed. Breathing up. Go ahead and exhale all that beautiful energy and protect yourself in that lovely bubble. And namaste, my friends. The light
Yeah.
in me sees the light in you.
Absolutely. That was a beautiful ending. That feels really good. And I just want to thank everyone for being here.
Thank you for having me, Elaine.